Welcome to the Deep Dive. We are here to take your stack of sources, your research, your notes, and turn them into the most potent and unforgettable knowledge available.
That's right.
Today, we are immersing ourselves in one of the world's most vibrant, emotionally complex, and visually stunning traditions, Día de Muertos, the Day of the Dead in Mexico.
And this deep dive, well, it has a very specific mission. We want to go beyond the generic understanding and really cut through any preconceived notions people might have, especially that common confusion thinking it's all somber and about mourning.
Right, like Halloween or something purely sad.
Exactly. But our sources, they reveal something much deeper, a profound cultural truth. This is fundamentally a joyous, really elaborate celebration.
Joyous, that's the key word.
It is. It's about understanding the deep, unique cultural expressions that shift the focus away from grief towards presence.
Okay, let's unpack that core cultural paradox right at the start. How can a day dedicated to the dead actually be a celebration? What's the driving belief behind all this?
Well, the foundation, it's rooted in a belief system that sees death differently.
Yeah.
Not as a final end.
And more like a transition.
Exactly. A transitional phase, just another step in this ongoing cycle of life. The core concept, and this is what you really need to internalize, is that families honor and remember their deceased loved ones based on the belief that during this very specific window each year, the spirits of the dead get permission, essentially, to return.
Permission to come back and visit.
Yes, to visit their living relatives. So it stops being about feeling an absence or, lamenting a loss.
And
It becomes about celebrating a tangible, although brief, return.
Yeah.
A beautiful temporary presence. It's a really powerful affirmation of the continuum, the connection that binds the living and the dead.
That immediately frames the whole holiday so differently. It's not passive remembrance, it's like active participation in a spiritual reunion.
Precisely.
And we need to establish the timeline here because the timing itself seems significant. It tells a story about, well, the fusion of cultures, doesn't it?
Absolutely. The modern celebration is quite a masterful synthesis. Now, preparation is intense, and it starts much earlier. Often by mid-October, families are already shopping for decorations, ingredients.
Getting ready.
Right. But the main days, the days the spirits are actually believed to return, are anchored historically. And this timing, it aligns with the Catholic calendar, All Saints' Day and All Souls' Day.
Okay, so there's the Catholic influence.
Yes, but, and this is crucial, it overlays and deeply integrates much older pre-Hispanic rituals.
Can you elaborate on that integration? The sources point to indigenous traditions going back like thousands of years.
They do. These indigenous observances, particularly those practiced by groups like the Aztecs, they honored the dead during rituals often tied to the harvest cycle.
Okay.
And these were dedicated to the goddess Mictlantecuhtli, who was known as the Lady of the Dead.
The Lady of the Dead.
Yes. So when Spanish colonization brought Catholicism, these incredibly deep-rooted indigenous practices weren't simply erased. That didn't happen.
They were absorbed.
They were strategically folded into the Spanish holiday structure, basically shifted to early November to align with the Catholic dates. And this blending, this syncretism, gave us the specific structure we recognize today.
Which means we have those two dedicated days for the visitation.
Precisely. November 1st, that's known as Día de los Inocentes. It's specifically for honoring deceased children. They're often called angelitos, little angels.
Little angels. So their return is welcomed first.
Yes. And then November 2nd, that's the official Día de Muertos. And that's dedicated to honoring the deceased adults.
So it's sequenced.
It's a structured sequence. It ensures every soul, regardless of their age when they pass, gets their specific dedicated time for a reunion with the family. The whole observance, really, is a testament to cultural resilience and historical adaptation.
That sets the historical and emotional stage perfectly. So what's our roadmap for the rest of this deep dive then? Where are we going next?
Well, we're going to look at the tangible, physical manifestations first. The altars, the cemetery gathering.
The visual elements.
Exactly. Then we'll immerse ourselves in the sensory experience. The food, the costumes, all of that.
Okay.
And finally, we'll move into what I find really fascinating, the unique part. The intellectual and playful traditions. Specifically, the language, the satire.
The Calaveras literarias.
Yes, exactly those. We're basically charting a course from the intimate family home out to the public cemetery space and then deep into the cultural mindset that allows people to, laugh in the face of death.
All right, let's start with the absolute centerpiece then. the spiritual anchor, what our sources consistently call the heart of Day of the Dead, the Ofrenda. These altars built in homes.
Yes, the ofrendas. They're meticulously built right inside homes all across Mexico. And you're right, this is where the reunion, the spiritual meeting, literally takes place.
And they're not just pretty displays, right? They're functional.
Oh, they're far more than just decorations. Think of them as sophisticated spiritual constructions. They act as the temporary landing spot, the rest area for the returning spirits after their long journey.
A long journey.
Yes. And what's crucial is often the structure itself. While they vary quite a bit, the most traditional ofrendas are built in tiers, often 2, 3, or maybe even 7 levels.
7 levels. That sounds highly symbolic. What do those levels represent? Is there a specific meaning?
There usually is. They often represent the stages a soul has to pass through to reach eternal rest, or in this case, to make the journey back.
Okay.
So 2 levels might simply represent earth and heaven. 3 levels could be heaven, earth, and the underworld, or sometimes the Holy Trinity.
And 7?
The 7-level altars are the most complex. They typically signify the 7 challenges or destinations the soul must traverse before it can reunite with the living. The sheer labor involved in building this kind of elaborate structure, well, it reflects the intense respect they have for the journey the spirits are undertaking.
So once the structure's built, what are the essential components? What absolutely has to be there? I understand these elements are functional, not just, aesthetic.
They absolutely are functional. Each element caters to specific needs of the spirit traveler, both physical and spiritual.
Like what?
Well, you have photographs of the deceased. Naturally, that's key for identification, for welcoming the specific person. But the offerings are vital. Their favorite foods and drinks. This is crucial, seen as sustenance after that arduous journey.
Makes sense.
And candles. Lots of candles. They're essential to light the way, acting as the literal path the spirits follow from the afterlife back to the home.
I see our sources also really emphasize the importance of water. Is that just practical, like quenching thirst, or does it hold a deeper symbolic weight for the spirit's journey?
That's an excellent point. It holds immense symbolic weight. A glass of fresh water is always present on the ofrenda. Yes, it's partly to quench thirst, but symbolically, it represents purification and refreshment after that long trip. Yes. And similarly, you'll often find coarse salt placed on the lower levels. Salt is seen universally as an agent of purification. It's thought to ensure that the returning spirit is pure when it arrives and also when it departs. This meticulous detail, it just underscores the deep reverence for the spiritual mechanics of the whole thing.
But the element that truly acts as the beacon, the specific detail nugget that really drives the spirit home, that seems to be the marigold flowers, the Cempasúchil.
Yes, the Cempasúchil, often called the flower of the dead. They are absolutely critical, and it's their sensory impact that matters most here.
Not just the color.
The color is vibrant, yes, that brilliant yellow and orange, but they're not merely decoration. You could call them spiritual technology.
Spiritual technology? How so?
Well, the petals are often laid out in paths, sometimes leading from the street right up at the altar, creating this vivid carpet. But it's their strong, highly pungent scent that is specifically believed to guide the spirit's home. It's like a sensory beacon, a fragrant map, ensuring the spirit doesn't get lost on its return journey.
A fragrant map. I like that. So the home altar is intensely private, meticulously prepared for the individual spirit. But the tradition also has this very public, outward-facing side, doesn't it? The part that happens in the cemetery.
That's the communal tradition, yes.
Yeah.
Families visit cemeteries, not just briefly, but they go to clean, maintain, and really decorate the grave sites.
Right.
But again, the purpose is much deeper than just upkeep. It's about setting up a temporary party right there at the resting place. Families will often spend the entire night together.
The whole night.
Yes, sharing stories about the deceased, bringing music, often playing the deceased's favorite songs, sharing food and drink. This gathering, this communal storytelling under the stars, it transforms the cemetery. What could be a space of mourning becomes a vibrant intergenerational space of celebration. It's really an act of keeping company with the departed.
It's a profound shift in perspective, isn't it? Instead of visiting a grave just out of sorrow or obligation, they're gathering to make sure their loved one feels welcomed back, feels part of the community again.
Exactly. They are actively included. And this public, joyous confrontation with mortality, it leads us directly to the aesthetic expression that has come to define the entire holiday at the Calavera.
Ah, the skull imagery. We're talking about the iconic look, right? The colorful skull faces people paint on and the elegant costumes. It's a visual element that's now achieved global recognition, really.
It has, and the aesthetic is entirely deliberate, highly symbolic. The painting of faces as colorful Calaveras skulls and the common use of elegant, often Victorian-era inspired costumes, it shifts the entire focus.
How does it shift it?
It's a form of artistic defiance, you could say. Instead of wearing somber black, hiding away, weeping in private, the community embraces this vibrant artistic expression. It moves the focus away from personal sadness and loss towards the universal, vibrant truth of the cycle of life and death.
What's fascinating about that aesthetic is that it celebrates the dead by making them beautiful, stylish, almost aspirational in a strange way.
That's precisely the key. Death is acknowledged, yes, but it's stripped of its terrifying power. How? By dressing it up in silks, feathers, flowers, bright colors, it gets incorporated into the joy.
So it's not denied, but transformed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It ensures that the vibrant celebration always dominates any sense of dread or finality. It is ultimately a form of aesthetic ownership over the very fear of death.
And that aesthetic vibrancy, it carries over immediately and powerfully into another sensory experience, the food. Food plays such an immense central role here. It seems that it's not just sustenance for the living.
Not at all.
It's more like a form of ritualized communication, connecting the living and the departed through shared flavors and memories.
It connects them in a very physical, tangible way. The food serves two essential roles, really. First, yes, it's the nourishing feast shared by the living family and the wider community. That's important. But second, and just as important, it's the physical offering placed on the ofrenda, specifically for the departed spirits. The smells, the tastes, they're meant to be immediately recognizable and deeply comforting to those returning spirits.
Okay, let's talk about some specific traditional dishes then. Starting with the one that seems truly unique to this holiday and has that immense visual symbolism. Pan de Muerto.
Pan de Muerto. Bread of the dead. It's essential. It's a sweet bread, usually based on egg yolks, and it's often flavored with orange blossom water or anise.
Oh, so it has a specific aroma too.
A very specific, memorable aroma. But its appearance is critical. It's typically decorated with small strips of dough, arranged to look like crossbones, and there's often a central knob meant to represent a skull.
So the visual acknowledgement of mortality is literally baked in, and it's sweet. What's the symbolic function of placing this specific bread on the altar?
Well, it's seen as sustenance for the soul, first off. And its shape, those bone-like pieces, sometimes they're said to symbolize the tears shed for the departed. The baker is consciously using those shapes to reinforce the idea of the cycle, remembering the bones, yes, but doing it in a delicious, celebratory way. It forces this momentary but sweet acknowledgement of the physical reality of death.
And then there are the really iconic Calaveras de Azúcar, the sugar skulls. These are probably the visual shorthand for the holiday globally, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. The sugar skulls are a classic treat. They're often made from molds using granulated sugar, meringue powder, and water, then decorated with really bright, vibrant icing, sometimes foil or glitter.
They're very festive.
Extremely. And what's fascinating is the personalization factor. They are frequently customized with the names of the deceased written right on the forehead.
Oh, really?
Yes, and sometimes, interestingly, they're even decorated with the names of living people.
Of the living. Why?
It's part of that playful engagement with mortality. It transforms the abstract, potentially frightening image of a skull into a personalized, edible, and ultimately sweet tribute to an individual. It's a very direct, non-threatening way of engaging with the idea of a specific person's mortality, yours or someone else's.
Okay, so beyond the dedicated sweets like pan de muerto and sugar skulls, we need to look at the feast staples. You mentioned these dishes prepared in huge quantities, highlighting the sheer labor involved in the communal nature of the celebration.
Oh, the scale of cooking for Dia de Muertos can be staggering. Dishes like tamales, mole, and various atolls, these thick, warm, corn-based drinks are often prepared by multiple generations working together for days.
Days!
Sometimes, yes. Especially things like moles. This is where regional specificity becomes really fascinating, too. In Oaxaca, for example, the mole negro is often considered essential.
That's the really dark, complex one.
Yes, a sauce with dozens of ingredients. Chiles, nuts, seeds, spices, chocolate. Its intense preparation, the time it takes, signals profound respect. The sheer commitment needed to produce that quantity of mole, or maybe hundreds of tamales, becomes a ritual of love and dedication in itself.
How does that compare regionally? Are there significant differences in what kinds of foods the spirits are offered?
Absolutely. The offerings definitely reflect the local geography and the favorite foods of the region, and importantly, of the specific deceased person.
Ah, okay.
So in Michoacan, for instance, you might find corundas. These are a type of tamal, often pyramid-shaped, wrapped in long green corn leaves or reed leaves, quite different from the rectangular tamales wrapped in dried corn husks you might find elsewhere.
In coastal areas?
Coastal regions, naturally, you might find seafood dishes prepared as offerings, if that was a favorite. The whole point is that families really try to research and prepare the specific meals and drinks that their deceased loved ones truly enjoyed in life.
So it's very personal.
Extremely personal. If Grandpa absolutely loved a certain brand of tequila, then tequila is placed on the ofrenda. If Grandma adored a specific type of pumpkin candy, calabaza and tasha maybe, then that is what gets placed on the altar for her.
So connecting the food back to the emotional landscape, it's clearly not just about having a meal, it's a multi-sensory expression of sustained memory, isn't it?
Precisely. The memory of the loved one is made physically manifest through these specific flavors, these aromas, these textures that they enjoyed. By preparing their favorites, by placing them on the altar so their essence can be consumed by the spirit.
Consumed by the spirit.
That's the belief, that the spirits absorb the essence, the aroma, the spiritual sustenance from the food. And then, by sharing those same foods widely with the living community, the family physically sustains the memory. It's a profound, ritualized act of remembrance that feeds both the body of the living and, well, the spirit of the departed, ensuring they truly feel welcomed back and remembered through their most cherished earthly comforts.
We've established the historical foundations, the altars, the sensory experience of food. Now we shift to something different, but equally powerful, the way the tradition uses children and playfulness to confront mortality. We are talking about pedir calaverita.
Yes, this is such a beautiful and culturally essential custom. Pedir calaverita literally translates to asking for a little skull.
Asking for a little skull.
It is the structured, ritualized way that children participate. And it seamlessly integrates the concept of death into the new generation's understanding, but through joy and play.
Our sources drew a cultural parallel here for audiences who might not know the specific Mexican tradition. They suggested it's somewhat similar to trick-or-treating in other cultures like the US or Canada.
Functionally, yes. They share that element of children going door to door asking for treats from neighbors. That part is similar.
But the intention is different.
The intention and the specific ritual are deeply rooted in Día de Muertos. The children dress up in costumes, but often these costumes embody the symbolic nature of the holiday itself. They might dress as skeletons or ghouls or miniature calaveras.
Okay.
And they carry decorated containers. Sometimes these are actual small decorated gourds or pumpkins, sometimes little boxes or decorated bags.
And their interaction isn't just holding out a bag, right? They use a very specific, formalized chant that seems crucial to the ritual.
It is absolutely essential because it ties the whole act directly to the holiday's central theme. They don't just vaguely ask for candy.
They ask with purpose.
Yes, with intention and cultural specificity. The specific phrase they use is, "Me da mi calaverita,"
Me da mi calaverita.
which means, "Will you give me my little skull?"
That is such a direct and honestly delightful way of engaging with the theme of death. They are literally asking for a small representation of mortality.
Exactly.
Which is then delivered to them as something sweet and fun, like candy or fruit or a small toy.
And that very exchange reinforces a societal expectation, too. They ask for their little skull, and they receive sweets, fruits, sometimes small toys. It links the act of confronting death, even playfully, with community generosity.
So the community is expected to give.
Absolutely. The household must give. It must be generous during this time of collective memory and spiritual return. It's really an exercise in cultural reciprocity played out through the children.
Let's delve a bit deeper into the context here. How exactly does this tradition use children to integrate the concept of death into the culture from such a young age? And what's the mechanism that allows them essentially to laugh at it?
Well, what's really fascinating here is the complete lack of taboo surrounding the imagery of death, even for very young children. The tradition doesn't try to shield kids from the concept of mortality.
No.
No, quite the opposite. It actively encourages them to confront it, to engage with it, even embody it, and yes, to laugh at it, all through the safe, familiar medium of play.
So dressing up as skeletons isn't seen as morbid.
Not in the same way it might be elsewhere. By dressing up as skeletons or ghouls, they playfully embody the idea of death. And by demanding a little skull, they transform what could be the ultimate fear into a harmless, sweet game that results in a treat.
It almost sounds like a form of exposure therapy, but on a massive cultural scale, starting really young.
That's a very apt way to put it, actually. This early integration ensures that the understanding of death as a natural, integrated part of the cycle of life gets instilled from the beginning.
So it normalizes it.
It completely normalizes it. The imagery of the skull, which might seem terrifying or purely negative in another cultural context, becomes associated with positive things. Community interaction, receiving treats, festive fun, a sense of belonging. It arguably prevents deep-seated fear from taking root by managing the concept through positive reinforcement and shared community ritual. It teaches them implicitly that the inevitable can be faced, even celebrated, together.
Okay, we've moved from the physical altars and the sensory food to the psychological integration through children's play. Now let's dive into the intellectual tradition, the language, and the satire that are so deeply embedded in the Mexican lexicon and creative spirit around the Day of the Dead. This section feels like where the wit and the social commentary really come alive.
Yes, this segment really illustrates the kind of cultural maturity it takes to confront mortality, not just with solemn ritual, which is important, but also with sharp, incisive wit. It shows that laughter is considered, well, an essential tool, almost a weapon, against fear.
And the centerpiece of this intellectual tradition is the Calaveritas literarias, right? The literary skulls.
Absolutely. Define those for us in more detail. What exactly are these literary skulls, and how do they function as satire? Okay, so Calaveritas literarias, literary skulls, are these witty, satirical, usually short poems. They often rhyme, and they're written specifically for the Day of the Dead season each year.
And they pop up everywhere.
Pretty much. It's an annual tradition. You see them in newspapers, online. Now, of course, they're read in schools, sometimes even composed just within families or workplaces. It's a tradition of poetic ribbing and social commentary.
Their purpose isn't mournful at all, then. They're meant to be playful jabs.
Entirely lighthearted jabs, yes. They humorously describe how friends, family members, well-known politicians, celebrities, or other public figures are carried off by La Muerte, death.
So they imagine their death.
Exactly. These poems often detail the imagined circumstances of their demise, frequently relating it, quite cleverly, to their particular vices, their habits, or maybe their professional shortcomings. You know, the lazy worker is caught sleeping by death, the gossiper is taken mid-sentence, the corrupt politician maybe gets tripped up by his own lies, that sort of thing.
And when we talk about death personified in these poems, we really have to properly introduce the figure of La Catrina. She often seems to be the agent of this humorous demise. She's such a critical cultural symbol, isn't she?
Oh, absolutely essential. La Catrina isn't just some random spooky skeleton figure. Her origin gives her so much context.
Yeah.
She was created by the famous Mexican lithographer and cartoonist Jose Guadalupe Posada back in the early 20th century.
Posada.
And Posada created her as this elegant, almost aristocratic female skeleton. She's usually depicted wearing a very fancy, large, French-style hat adorned with flowers or feathers.
And what was Posada's original intent with creating this, well, elegant skeletal figure? Was it just artistic?
Not at all. She was pure social critique. Posada used La Catrina originally to mock the Mexican upper classes during the Porfiriato era, around the time of the Mexican Revolution.
Mock them how?
He was mocking those who were desperately trying to adopt European fashions and customs, sometimes seeming to deny or look down upon their own indigenous roots. La Catrina, this fancy skeleton, was basically a reminder. Underneath all the fancy imported clothes and pretensions, everyone is just the same skeleton.
Oh, the great equalizer.
Exactly. Death, in her form, is the ultimate equalizer. She highlights the universality of mortality, regardless of social status or wealth. So she serves as this powerful, elegant, yet deeply satirical symbol. When she shows up in the Calaveritas literarias today, she's that fashionable, maybe slightly mischievous, but ultimately unstoppable force coming for everyone, from the pauper right up to the president.
That context is absolutely crucial. So why does using satire and wit against death, often channeled through La Catrina, matter so much to the culture? What's its function?
Well, I think it matters because it's a proactive cultural strategy for laughing at mortality, and by doing so, draining it of some of its terror. It acknowledges the universal truth: no matter how powerful, rich, or clever you think you are, La Muerte comes for everyone eventually.
Mm-hmm.
But by mocking death publicly, by making jokes about its arrival, you kind of rob it of its paralyzing fear. It's a very sophisticated coping mechanism, really, that chooses humor and intellectual wit over simple resignation or despair.
That cultural defiance seems reflected in the playful idioms, too, the ones that pop up in everyday language around this time of year. Let's look at the first one mentioned, La fiesta de los muertos.
Right, that phrase. It simply means the party of the dead. But it's more than just a translation. It's a foundational concept.
How so?
When people use that phrase, maybe just in conversation about the upcoming celebrations, it immediately encapsulates the whole non-somber nature of the holiday. It constantly reinforces the idea that this is a celebration, a vibrant, welcoming party for the spirits, rather than, say, a dreary funeral observance or a day of passive grief. It sets the tone.
Okay, simple but powerful. But the second idiom mentioned, which sounds like pure bravado, seems like the most profound example of that defiance. Espantame, Panteón.
Ah, yes. This one is fantastic. It literally translates to scare me, cemetery.
Scare me, cemetery.
Isn't that incredible? It's used as this humorous, often highly dramatic way of saying, basically, I'm not scared of that at all, or go ahead, try and scare me, you can't. It perfectly captures that lighthearted, challenging, almost cheeky attitude towards death, the symbols of death that is so endemic to this tradition. It's verbal swagger against mortality.
Okay, here is where it gets really interesting. Our source provides a case study, an analysis of an actual Calaverita written for someone named Hector. And it illustrates perfectly how these literary traditions and the linguistic idioms intersect. Let's break down that poem and see these cultural tools in action.
Right, the Hector Calaverita, the setup for it is immediately relatable, kind of universal. It suggests that Hector is this very busy, maybe overly zealous person. His professional agenda, his schedule just gets too full.
Like he's lost in the daily grind.
Exactly. Overwhelmed by the demands of life and work, maybe losing perspective.
And death, personified probably as La Katrina, sees her opportunity.
Yes. The poem, as described, details that La Katrina, perhaps annoyed by his excessive ambition or just his frantic pace, gives him a shove, takes him straight off to the Pantheon, the cemetery.
Okay.
The subtext is pretty clear. Even something like extreme devotion to work, which might seem like a virtue, will ultimately lead to your demise if you're not careful. La Muerte finds a way.
But Hector doesn't just succumb passively in the poem. The twist is that he uses his wit, and specifically that cultural idiom we just discussed, to try and escape this finality.
Precisely. That's the clever part. The poem describes him finding this sudden agility, maybe a moment of cultural clarity or just quick thinking, and shouting the ultimate defiance. He leverages that specific idiom we talked about, Espántame Panteón, que yo soy más listo.
Which means?
Scare me, cemetery, because I am smarter, or I am more clever.
Wow. The power of that moment in the poem really can't be overstated. He uses the direct phrase, the cultural tool that's embedded in the tradition, to essentially talk his way out of death, or at least halt it momentarily.
And the conclusion of this little narrative poem is absolutely key to understanding the cultural philosophy at play. He manages to escape, he gets back to his office, returns to his work.
Back to the grind.
Back to the grind, yes. But importantly, now with the sharp recent memory of his close encounter with La Katrina, this whole story demonstrates the perceived cultural power of humor, of cleverness, of linguistic wit over death itself.
So it implies you can outsmart death.
It implies that being quick-witted, knowing the right cultural phrases, maintaining a spirited defiance, these things can perhaps temporarily trump the finality of La Muerte. The satire reinforces the idea that life, cleverness, and maybe a healthy dose of humor can win the day, even if it's only until next year's Calaveritas, when inevitably Hector will probably be targeted again for some other failing.
It makes the fear of death, which is so universal, almost into this running, shared cultural joke, something that binds the community together and also provides this unique outlet for social commentary at the same time.
Precisely. And by frequently targeting public figures, politicians, celebrities, bosses, in these poems, the tradition ensures that during a time normally reserved for intense spiritual reflection and intimate family memory, the culture also carves out this designated, accepted, and humorous space for quite rigorous social critique.
So it's multi-layered.
It's like an essential intellectual safety valve that operates quite effectively under the protective, festive umbrella of the holiday itself.
So if we try to connect all this back to the bigger picture and distill the primary takeaway for you, the listener, listening to this deep dive, it really is this. Dia de Muertos is far less about mourning absence.
Okay.
And fundamentally much more about celebrating presence. It's about affirming memory and confronting mortality, yes, but doing so with structured ritual, intense joy, clever wit, and immense generosity. The sheer complexity of this tradition, how it weaves together so many threads, that's what makes it so powerful and enduring. Yeah, what really stands out to me is just how comprehensive this tradition is. It seems to touch every aspect of human life, from, the spiritual geometry of the multi-level ofrenda,
Right.
to the very sensory art of the food, the specific tastes and smells, to the mandated intense family time in cemeteries, all the way to intellectual satire and sharp social commentary delivered through La Catrina and the poems. Death isn't hidden away. It's seamlessly integrated into life's lexicon, its calendar, its flavors. It's not cordoned off as something forbidden or purely fearful.
I think the celebration is uniquely effective because it fully acknowledges what is inevitable death, but it consistently frames it not as a final, terrifying end, but as a temporary separation, and one that's marked annually with a vibrant, welcoming party. It's a tradition that doesn't just allow, but actively demands participation and celebration, rather than passive resignation or sorrow.
Absolutely. That active participation, the act of gathering, cooking Grandpa's favorite meal, telling stories, playing music, that's what makes the spirits feel truly present and welcome back.
Exactly. And on that note, perhaps we can leave you with one final provocative thought to chew on. Something that builds directly on that literary tradition we just discussed.
Okay.
Since the Calaveras literarias so playfully, yet pointedly, target public figures, politicians, bosses, the powerful alongside friends and family, consider this. How does a tradition that is so fundamentally spiritual, so rooted in family and ancestral memory, simultaneously allow, even encourage, a culture to critique and mock its powerful figures right during a time meant for deep sacred reflection?
That's a great question.
It seems to bind social commentary tightly with spiritual tradition, suggesting perhaps that satire, critique, holding power accountable through laughter, that these are just as vital to the continuation and the health of the culture as are the marigolds, the salt, the pan de muerto. Think about the profound power, maybe unique power, of communal laughter to check powerful institutions and individuals, even when, or perhaps especially when, facing mortality itself.